Hello all, and welcome to the online version of the recent workshop that I held on brainstorming a medical personal statement. This presentation will be online for at least the next few weeks and hopefully get you through the beginning of the process for writing your personal statement. I want to take a second to talk about what a personal statement is, and I may say medical throughout this presentation. That's only for brevity's sake. There is a lot of overlap and similarities between what a personal statement is for medical school and what it is for dental and physician assistant and physical therapy and veterinary. So hopefully this will be a benefit to all of my pre-health students. A personal statement is your opportunity to describe who you are and why you are uniquely qualified for a career in the health professions. And this is meant to go beyond just your GPA and your standardized test score. This is your chance to advocate for yourself, and most importantly, this is the opportunity to try and snag an interview. That is the main purpose of the personal statement. And that's because medical schools receive hundreds, if not thousands, of applications every cycle with similarly strong candidates in regards to their numbers. So the personal statement helps play a significant role in determining who gets that interview, and you can greatly improve your chances by submitting a well-written and interesting essay. The essay should focus on why you want to be a physician, or veterinarian, or dentist, or physician assistant, what experiences have motivated and reinforced your desire to pursue this profession. Something to think about but not necessarily state blatantly is, why is medicine the right fit for you in regards to other professions in general. For instance, a lot of people say they want to be a doctor because they enjoy helping people. Well, yes, but you can help people as a teacher or a social worker. What is uniquely qualifying about you for medicine and medicine for you? You want to think about what experiences have allowed you to develop the skills necessary to be successful. What have you learned about medicine, and what do you want to learn more about? What individuals have shaped your life and influenced you to pursue medicine? What will you contribute to the medical school community? And most importantly, what do you want admissions committee members to know about you that they won't be able to find out from other areas of your application? The format for this may differ a bit from the in-house session that I did, but we will still essentially cover some do's and don'ts. We'll go through some of the brainstorming exercises. We'll talk about credentials that medical schools want to see and how you can incorporate those into your personal statement. And finally, I'll go through some resources available to you here at UNC. First things first, you got to get started. You got to start early and you got to start often. It is not uncommon for students to go through a dozen or more drafts with at least half a dozen different versions of what they might want their personal statement to be. Just attack the blank page. Have as many people as you trust to read your paper do so and provide feedback on it. Do know yourself and know your audience. You want to ask, why is it important that I tell admissions committee members about this? What does this choice of topic tell them about me? And how does this choice of topic reflect on me? How is this topic relevant to my pursuit of the health professions and my application to a health professions school? And what I mean by know your audience is, please understand the volume of personal statements that they will go through. Again, it's hundreds, if not thousands, any individual application cycle, meaning dozens in any given week. So you want to catch their attention early and you want to maintain their attention during the course of your statement. Do hit the right notes. Keep in mind the purpose of your personal statement and have one central theme. It may be beneficial for you to start an outline before you begin putting ink to paper. Organize your essay in a logical manner. Highlight specific, unique accomplishments of which you are proud, and if you choose to do so, provide details. Show, don't just tell. But what you don't want to do is repeat your application. In any given central application service, which is the CAS system for each individual health professions program, think of it like the common app for your particular health profession school. You will have anywhere from 10 to 15, for AMCAS and medical schools it's 15 spots, so that you can talk about your activities in your application. You'll even beyond that have 3 that you can list as your most meaningful, where you will have an additional character limit. But what you don't want to do is just biographically go through every single thing you have already gone through in your application, in your personal statement. You're telling them things they already know, and you're wasting valuable real estate. Don't be sesquipedalian. You don't have to look that up because it means exactly what you think it means. It means don't be too wordy. Don't use a bigger word than is necessary to get your point across. Also, don't ignore important information. In general, there are better uses for your personal statement than explaining away or justifying poor grades or incidents of misconduct. However, if you choose to address these subjects, be sure to focus on what you have learned and how they have made you a stronger person. What you should never, ever do is blame someone else for your mistakes. You may also want to discuss any special hardships, challenges, or obstacles that may have influenced your educational pursuits. Or you may want to comment on significant fluctuations in your academic record that are not explained elsewhere in your application. Now for a little bit of the techno mumbo jumbo. There is a 5,300 character limit in AMCAS. This will vary from application to application, so be sure to check your individual one. But for AMCAS in recent cycles, it has been 5,300 characters. That is not words, that includes punctuation and spaces. So remember what I said about not using bigger words than are necessary? This is a good example of that. Also, there is no formatting in your personal statement. That means there's no bolding, no italics, no bulleting. So if you do want to type it out ahead of time in hopes of cutting and pasting, you're going to want to do that in a notepad only format, notepad or text only format. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the competencies that medical schools are looking for. Now, obviously, with the exception of written communication, which should ostensibly be highlighted in your written personal statement. The other three are primarily going to be discovered throughout the rest of your application in either your academics or your activities, possibly your research. This is just a small sample of some of the science competencies that they are going to want to see. But again, this will hopefully be demonstrated in your academics. Now here is where we start getting into some of the what we call non-cognitive character traits that medical schools are going to want to see from their students. They are interpersonal competencies of service, social skills, cultural competence, teamwork, and oral communication. This is demonstrating that you can interact with other people in meaningful situations. We also have intrapersonal competencies, ethical responsibility to self and others, reliability and dependability, resilience and adaptability, and capacity for improvement. What this means is that you have some level of self-awareness and you are able to demonstrate insightfulness, humanity, commitment, logic, distinctiveness, positivity, maturity, and reflectiveness most of all. So now we're going to get to some of the brainstorming exercises. If you want to just let this play through and get the gist of it on the other side, that's absolutely fine. But if you wanted to take a second and pause it and actually play along at home, I want you to think about 2 examples of volunteering that meant a great deal to you. And as we're going through these next 2 or 3 or 4 exercises, I want you to start with 3 points. What was the experience? How did it affect you? And why is it important that a medical school admissions committee knows this about you? So volunteering exercises, volunteering examples. Next, I want you to think about 2 shadowing experiences that stood out to you. Again, what happened? How did it affect you? And why is it important that a medical school admissions committee knows this? Number 3, name one thing completely unrelated to medicine or science that interests you. Think in particular what makes you unique. Now, here is the $1,000,000 question. Why do you want to be a doctor? But before we get into some of the details of that, and before we move on to some examples, I want you to think about the previous 3 brainstorming exercises. Why do you think I asked about a volunteering experience that meant something to you? It's because I want to see what traits you demonstrated in that volunteering experience that may have been one of those inter or intrapersonal skills. When I asked you about what shadowing experiences meant something to you, I want to see what values you hold in the actions of the physician. What did they do that is quite possibly something that you're going to want to emulate during your future time as a physician? And when I asked you about something that made you unique, that's really just trying to make sure you understand that medical schools want to see somebody who is not just all science all the time, and that gives you an opportunity to think about what you may want to begin to highlight. Even if the previous activities do not go in your personal statement, it's a good idea to start thinking about what activities are going to be part of your activities sections or your most meaningful activities when you start putting everything into your MCAS application. The bad. Anybody who's had a meeting with me and asked anything about personal statements or why they want to be a doctor knows this. Never ever say you want to be a doctor because you want to help people. That is something that is so cliched and so overused that it is almost turning your application into a non-starter. A general rule of thumb is if there is a sentence in your personal statement that could have been written by someone else, quite possibly Miss America, then it is not worth the space on the page. Better would be, my time spent volunteering with special needs children was one of several service opportunities which furthered my commitment to helping people. Now, this, as opposed to the previous slide, this is actionable. This is, I did these activities, so I know what I'm getting into, and I enjoyed them, and I'm very likely to do it again. Whether this was someone who was realizing that their path was now going to be in primary care, or whether this was someone who had significant research time, and this got them out of the lab. The bad, what we commonly refer to as grandiosity. Kind of conflation of an actual situation. I learned so much from a frail 60-year-old woman who presented to the clinic with abdominal pain. After the doctor gave her the diagnosis, she held my hand and we sat together while I comforted her, this former stranger who is now my friend. She's not your friend now. This is obviously a meaningful experience to you, but here's the thing. Every medical school and residency applicant has patient contact experiences. So this is not doing anything to distinguish yourself from the masses of other candidates. Now, there is one time that this could possibly be pulled off, and that is if you have a very concise patient story that then segues into your associated accomplishments. Say you volunteered at a clinic overseas, and this kind of led into your passion for public health, and you were applying to an MD and PH program with international relief as a mission focus. These kinds of things might be, but it is tricky to pull off. A correlation to this grandiosity and conflation is also claiming that you plan to cure cancer or come up with the cure for HIV. These are all very, very grand goals, but as an incoming medical student, you do not necessarily have the foundation to state that with any certainty at this point. Better is saying the human aspect is intrinsic to healthcare, which I first experienced with an elderly patient, blah, blah, blah. After he gave her the diagnosis, being qualified to do not much else, I held her hand and we sat together. See, that is focusing on the experience and not over-saturating us with emotion, because this is showing empathy. The bad. The gentle and prompt treatment Grandma received from the emergency physician made me realize I wanted to be a doctor too. This is what is often referred to as the epiphany into medicine. Your pursuit of the health professions should be the result of a series of thoughtful, conscious, and reflective decisions, not an instantaneous realization. Some students will make the mistake of devoting a significant portion of their medical school essay to describing a universal experience that initially piqued their interest in medicine or a particular specialty. Now, I mean no disrespect to anyone's ill family member, and sadly, we have all had them, but writing about your personal experience with the medical field is overused, and it may bore your readers. Just because your sentiment is genuine, and I have no doubt that it is unlikely to be compelling reading or a strategic means to distinguish you from the hundreds of other applicants whose personal statements probably share the same themes. In other words, the medical staff who impressed you so much when they were caring for your loved ones does not truly reflect anything about your own qualifications or aspirations. Again, there may be a tricky instance in which we can make this work, and that is linking the experience to something you then grew from and moved into. Watching my grandmother struggle with cancer prompted scientific curiosity, which I have pursued in my research in the Lineberger Cancer Center. As a 3-year-old, I dressed in scrubs for Halloween. I have always wanted to be a doctor. This is not manifest destiny. You have not always known that you wanted to be a physician or a dentist. Similarly, who cares if everyone has always said that you would make a good physician? What do they know? Also, and I hope you've begun to notice a theme here, these stories do not engage your reader, nor do they further your candidacy. So, you've wanted to study germs since you were a kid. How does that support you being a great contributor to a medical institution or a future leader in the field? It doesn't, which is why admissions readers have no interest in hearing about it. Better? Yeah, just listen to Cap on this one and don't. Now we're coming into the home stretch. Here's some information about the resources available to you. This Write for Success book was actually published in collaboration with the National Association of Advisors for the Health Professions, which is all of the me's across the country who see these things day in and day out, collaborating on some personal statement tips and examples. I particularly like the medical school essays that made a difference. There are copies of the 4th and 5th edition available in the resource room here in Career Services, 2nd floor, Haynes Hall, anytime our office is open for drop-ins, which is weekdays 1 to 4. You can come in and take a look at any of these books. I think I have copies of all of them out there at any given time. But I like the medical school essays that made a difference because it is specifically for medical schools. It has copies of successful personal statements. It has quotes from admissions representatives about why the statement made a difference for them. And in the back, you can look at a key to see what the applicant's numbers and statistics were and where they got in, where they were accepted, and where they matriculated. So you can see what might hit home for some particular schools. The Writing Center is also an excellent resource. You can schedule an appointment, which I would always recommend scheduling an appointment with a one-on-one counselor, and you can come in and brainstorm. You can say, these are some things I'm thinking about. You can come in with a fully polished draft, and they can read through it and provide feedback on whether or not you're successfully getting your points across, and they will let you know what they believe the gist of your essay is. I hold trainings with them a couple of times a year to make sure they understand how a medical or a health profession's personal statement differs from maybe a letter of interest or a cover letter. They also host frequent workshops of their own on writing for clarity. So I continually send information about their workshops to the pre-health listserv, which if you have not signed up for, you should, and it is instructions to do so on my website. In addition to personal statements, remember, I do not read them individually. It is not that I wouldn't love to. It's just that if during an application season I opened up myself to reading personal statements, it would quite literally be all I had time to do during the day. So that is why I want to have this workshop to help give you some tips and tactics, and I want to provide you the resources at the Writing Center so that you can begin to get feedback from other professional organizations. But beyond the personal statement, we do have cover letter workshops. We provide resume assistance. Should your personal statement fulfill the task of getting you that interview, we do mock interviews here at Career Services. All of the career counselors are available and trained in how to do mock interviews. To be perfectly honest, they've been doing mock interviews for jobs day in and day out for years now. All I had to do was tweak it a little to make sure they knew what the medical schools were looking for in their questions and answers. I have general info sessions. I have workshops on a regular basis. Again, careers.unc.edu is the main university career services website. prehealth.unc.edu is the pre-health website. And as everyone knows, I like to end my workshops with a little bit of This quote and this slide are every bit as effective as any of the quotes that you're going to start with for a medical personal statement, which means don't. Remember, this is just getting started. Every word and sentence of your essay should support your thesis. Your essay might not ever come out and say, I am a research-oriented harpist who leads by example, but by the end, I want every statement you have said to back that up so that every person who is reading it understands it to be true.